Hello, hi, I'm Vera, and we're just waiting for Adrian to join us.
Here. Hi, I'm Adrian.
And we are Vera and Adrian working from home. And this is a 45-minute show. And for those of you who are new to us, we will be talking about a book today. And we normally cycle through books, films, TV, music, food, and sometimes we have a special guest. Right, and you can chat to us and ask us questions in the chat box down the side of your YouTube video. And we will address those directly at 8 p.m. So in half an hour, we will answer your questions. So hashtag ask us anything.
Indeed, indeed. You can ask us about the book that we're talking about today, or you can ask us about anything that you have on your mind, or you can ask us about anything, anything that's going on in your lives or in the world, anything at all.
Yeah, I think Adrian gives some really good advice. I didn't ask for your consent to sort of volunteer you, but you have always given me good advice, and I've learned a lot about life from you. So that I'm just putting it out there.
Okay, I will. Yeah, if you ask me for advice, I will give you my opinion with the what's the word I'm looking for? With the proviso, is that right?
Yes.
Possibly. With the proviso that I don't recommend that you do anything that I tell you to do. I'm not taking responsibility for anything that happens as a result of any advice that I give.
Sure, that makes sense.
I'm not a qualified advice giver in any
No,
way.
you have no certificates.
No qualifications.
No badges, nothing like that. So yeah, that's I mean, but who's gonna actually, I'm gonna actually listen to your advice. I do, so anyway. Blah, blah, blah. Okay.
How are you doing? Oh, do we have any content warnings for today?
Ooh, we're going to talk about race because Cathy Park Hong, we're talking about Cathy Park Hong's book, Minor Feelings, Race and the Asian American Reckoning. So we will talk about sort of race stuff, but I think that's about, identity stuff. Yeah, I think so. I think that's about it. I mean, in the book itself has references to like sex and violence and things like that, but I won't be talking about those.
Okay, cool. Awesome. And the usual warning about like possible language infractions. We won't do that deliberately, but
I've been quite good about not swearing.
Yes, yeah, we haven't, neither of us have sworn for a while, I think.
For a streak of 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's Pretty good.
That's really good for me.
Okay.
Adrian, how are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm feeling like I felt a surge of energy as we started today, which is really nice.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I woke up really early a couple of days ago, and so I've been in a weird kind of. I woke up at 4:30 in the morning, which is, I mean, I got up at 4:30 in the morning, which is very unusual for me, and then went back to sleep again, and then woke up again, and so I've been a little bit not quite knowing whether it's day or night, but today I think I'm back on a good rhythm.
Oh, good. I'm so glad.
Yeah. How are you doing?
I had a funny day, like lots of sort of small things are going wrong, but nothing actually like it's all nothing that important in the bigger scheme of things, but just sort of like annoying pinpricks of like, but no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm still reeling from the book, to be honest. When I said that I wanted to talk about this book today, I was halfway through and I was like, oh, I'm not sure. I don't think I'll finish it in time. And then actually it is quite a quick read. I just didn't make time for it. And I finished reading it maybe an hour ago, and it's still, it's uncanny the way it has made me feel. And I've made loads of notes. And so it's really stimulated a lot of stuff in me. And so it feels like it's like exploded a part of my brain and being in a good way of like, whoosh, there's all this new fresh air come in, but that's sort of like a bit scary and amazing.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so it's very fresh that you finished it.
Super fresh.
Yeah, okay. Well, think about that. Like when we talk about it, feel free to talk about like earlier parts of it that might be, you know, that you might have digested. Yeah. That aren't so fresh or aren't so raw, if you want. I don't know anything about the book, so I will be guided by you when we talk about it.
Sure. No, I think you should guide us. Sorry, I'm just adjusting my lighting situation. I think you should guide us.
I'm much lighter than you.
Because
right now. Oh yeah, that's better.
Yeah. You should guide us because you're the person who, well, anyway, we'll see. We'll work it out. We normally do.
We'll work it out. We have a little bit of time for a conversational prompt. I remembered my conversational prompts.
Great.
You want one?
Yes.
Are you feeling particularly grateful for anything today? That's conversational prompt number 9.
Oh my God. Okay. So I read a line from the book about gratitude.
Oh, okay.
And I want to share this first because it said something like, and it was quite late in the book, so I haven't quite processed. It said something about gratitude, like true gratitude. It kind of places you in the present. I'm not quite sure that's true, but she said something like true gratitude must feel like real happiness.
Oh, okay.
Which
that's interesting.
Might sound like a bit of a what there's a word for those things that don't quite make sense, that sound inspirational.
A paradox? A koan?
A what?
A koan? That's part of Zen Buddhism, I think.
Oh, I think it's not a paradox or a koan. It was a word that came up maybe a couple of years ago to criticize things like, you know, like quote cards or like little things on Twitter.
Oh, okay.
But I feel that there is some truth.
Yeah, okay. It's more disparaging.
Yeah. Yes, but I feel that there is some truth in this thing about gratitude, because I suppose anxiety is worrying about the past and the future. So if you're grateful, it sort of like places you in reality or a time or something, and that must feel like contentment or happiness. And so I am grateful. I'm grateful for the weather.
Okay, nice.
For example.
Yes. Today's weather particularly.
Yeah, I had a really nice stroll in the park. I was rained on, but it was like a beautiful gray sky with like bits of light. And I know so many people who are just wonderful pillars or anchors in
Mm-hmm.
my life, including yourself. And I'm like, yeah, there's all these things that are going like wrong. You know,
Yeah.
can't really shake that kind of stuff. I sound like such a hippie.
Maybe it's inevitable as soon as you start talking about gratitude. I mean, I was thinking that I've heard lots of people or read lots of people talking about having a kind of practice of gratitude and how helpful I think a lot of people have found that with, you know, especially if they're struggling with depression or anxiety.
Yes.
It's one of the things that's often recommended. I've never tried it as a practice, but I'm not very good at any kind of practice. So maybe that's something that I should get into, because I quite like that. I mean, I can't quite get my head around it, but I like the idea that gratitude puts you really in the now. I wonder if that's because I suppose it's about what you have to tune in to what you're feeling.
Yeah. So yeah, when people
You
make
can't talk.
gratitude lists. Sorry.
Sorry, I know I talked over you.
No, I talked over you.
I was just going to say I don't, because if you're not grateful for it anymore, then it's not relevant, right? So you might have been grateful for something in the past, but that's not going to be part of your practice today, I guess. It's about tuning into what you feel right now, isn't it?
Yes. So I've started, I mean, no, you know this already, but when I have food, a sit down meal with my partner, we do like a non-religious grace. So it's like gratitude. Thank you for
I didn't
whatever.
know that.
Oh, really?
No.
And it feels, there is a difference. I notice a difference between going, oh, thank you for the internet. Thank you for, you know, just like reeling it off, and or just going, thank you for the microwave. Because I am really grateful that I've been able to heat up my meal. So it's really sort of like you say, tuning into what's
right
in front of you.
And being really sincere about it.
Yeah.
And precise.
And usually it's once you sort of go, oh, if I'm thankful for having the ability to hold a knife and a fork, then it just releases a whole bunch of other things. I'm so thankful that I, you know, managed to get out of bed today, or I can speak, etc., etc.
Yes.
So it's helpful.
Yes.
And you are good at practice at things. Like, what didn't you meditate for over a year?
Yeah, I did. Yes. And I need, like, yes, that's, I mean, probably one of the things that I need to practice is like noticing what I do actually do. And I've been doing yoga with Adrian for I think 3 months now, every day. So that's quite impressive. But things like I've never been able to keep a dream diary, and I did morning pages for a while, but I didn't like it and I stopped. And I've thought about having, you know, trying a gratitude practice in the evenings so many times, and I've never done it. But yeah, I mean, I tend to remember those things more than I remember the things that I did. But yeah, it's true. I meditated every day for quite a long time.
An hour in the morning, an hour in the evening, that's a lot.
Yes, I never did. I mean, the two, like hour in the morning, hour in the evening, I only ever managed for about a month after I came home from a retreat. But I think I did at least 1 hour a day for a full year, and it made a huge difference. Like really, I mean, yeah, it was very valuable. Yeah.
What? Ooh.
We need to talk about the book.
We need to talk about the book. I'll ask you during the question and answer time.
Okay, remember.
Okay.
So yeah, we're talking about Minor Feelings. That's what it's called, isn't it?
Correct. Minor Feelings by Cathy Park Hong, who is and the subtitle, I guess, is called An Asian American Reckoning. Oh, right. Actually, it depends on which cover it is.
Oh, okay.
I think one said race and an Asian American reckoning, and one just goes an Asian American reckoning. Anyway.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. I love the word reckoning. That's so good.
Yes, right? That's very Brene Brown as well.
Yes.
the rumble, the reckoning. Anyway.
It feels very rigorous.
Yeah, it also talks about, it sort of alludes to accountability, taking responsibility, like, being
and also just being like taking stock of what is there. Like there's all of the accountability stuff, which I feel like is there as well, but even just the like noticing what is there is part of reckoning, I think.
Yeah.
Like with figures, you reckon up a column of figures, don't you?
Yes. Yes, correct.
Sorry, I keep interrupting.
No, it was published super recently in February 2020. And so it has references to, you know, all of the Trump stuff, all of the Black Lives Matter stuff. It's sort of like so fresh. And it's already like won, you know, awards and stuff like that. But that's not how I came across it. A lovely writer, a friend of mine, Sarah. I never call her Sarah, but let's call her Sarah. Her name is Sarah.
Okay.
She said, "Have you read this book? It might be triggering because it's to do with race." And I was like, "Oh, do I want to read another book?" And for some reason, when I read an article about the book, Cathy is a poet, and I guess I think of myself as a poet, and she kind of tried doing stand-up, and she talks about watching Richard Pryor's stand-up and how she transcribed all of his performances, and it was in text form. It's sort of super distressing and powerful, like race dialogue, but when he performs it, it's sort of like palatable.
Interesting.
And that was the genius of it, really. And she tried doing stand-up, but she says, "I'm very bad at stand-up, and also I was doing stand-up at poetry gigs, and people had no idea." Yeah, and I like that about her. Like, it sounds really egotistical to say like she reminds me of me, but I think she's older, but she's definitely more advanced in her career. So she came before me, but she's doing all these things which are like so naughty, like
what?
Doing stand-up in a
like the stand-up at poetry gigs.
And like playing with bad English, you know, and writing. She inverts the English language. Subverts, messes with it, uses slang and nonsense words and things like that. And she talks a lot, and so a lot of the book is really difficult, but I want to sort of share the hopeful stuff about it.
Right.
And she talks about her relationship to the English language, and that's really cool. She's like, I like, can I read a bit?
Yes, of course.
I made some notes. And she talks about being an octopus. Okay.
An octopus?
This is a quote. Park Chan-wook's film Old Boy, where a man marches into a sushi restaurant and orders a live octopus, which comes whole and slithering on a plate. He tries to stuff the entire octopus into his mouth, but it's too big. The cephalopod covers his whole face while cinching its tentacles around his head so that he can't breathe. Eventually, he passes out. On good writing days, I am the octopus.
Wow.
And she talks about, because English is not her language, you know, like English, the language, whiteness, Western culture. It's so, I mean, she's bilingual, but she considers like whether she can express parts of herself with the English language. And so as a poet, she's able to like mangle it up and reconstitute it and all that kind of stuff, which is so exciting. And so she's like the octopus that's, instead of the English language like containing her or eating her,
right,
she's able to sort of I mean, it's not that amazing a metaphor. But I just love the visual aspect of the octopus.
It is quite, because it's kind of, it's gruesome. I do like that image. It's gruesome and it's powerful, and it is very straightforward in the sense that, yeah, if she's the octopus, then there's this guy trying to eat her, and she beats him.
Yeah.
I think that, yeah, that works really nicely, because I was thinking, you know, as you were talking about that, I was thinking about, you know, this whole quite loaded question of who gets to own a language, and English is a particularly complex language in that sense, because it's spoken in so many places and by so many different people. And there are often discussions about who gets to coin new words or change the meaning of words and so on, aren't there? And I think that's a really interesting, to be an Asian American poet, where language is the stuff that you are working with. I wonder what the process of kind of coming to confidence is.
For her or for individuals?
For her. I don't know if she talks about that.
She does. She talks about her mentors at university, who said she had a poetry teacher who sounds that they've got a Korean name, Myung Mi Kim, saying if you knock English enough, it becomes a door to another language.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Because English is spoken all over the world, and not just like racially, but like through sort of class structures, it has differences, right?
Yeah.
And there's a judgment that if you don't speak proper English, you're not cultured,
yes.
You're not educated. And so, but if we appropriate that, I guess. Oh, in Malaysia, some publishers have started using American spelling.
Oh, okay.
Which for me is like such a huge thing, given that Malaysia is an ex-British colony.
Right. It feels like a statement of a kind of, I was going to say a statement of intent, but it's like a kind of long overdue acknowledgement of where the power is, in a way.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not saying that America is spelling, like shifting to America as the power or is a good thing, but I'm just thinking, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's this thing, I mean, I don't want to kind of get stuck on this, but I remember being taught about native speaker credibility.
Yes, because I learned about that phrase from you.
Oh, okay, yes, possibly. Because I was really, as soon as I heard that phrase, I love it. I love the idea of it and the freedom that it gives you, or alternatively, the struggle to get that kind of credibility. And particularly because I have been friends with so many people who were not native English speakers, but incredibly powerful speakers of English, if that makes sense. And there's always this question of when somebody who's not a native English speaker says something which is not what I would have said as a native English speaker, there's an impulse to correct. Sorry?
Yeah. Sorry. You think it's a mistake. You think it's a mis-expression.
Exactly. That's always the first impulse, isn't it? It's like, oh, you got that wrong, or you didn't mean to say that. You meant to say something else.
Just for the listeners, just for the listeners and viewers out there, can you explain native speaker credibility and how you came across that?
So yeah, I came across it when I was 19. I was in the Czech Republic doing some kind of very short TEFL course with a really fascinating man whose name I don't remember. And the TEFL part of that was not, it was good. But what was really interesting was that he had a PhD in English language, and I think had focused on the verb to be in his doctoral thesis.
Wow.
I love like that specificity. So he was telling us about what happens when you speak a language in such a way that other people recognize that you are a native speaker of that language. So usually that's about accent, but it might also be about the way you look. I mean, it's obviously in English, if you're white, you're more likely to be taken as a native speaker than if you're not white. That's just something that happens in society. You're more likely to be questioned if you're not white. But it also happens in other contexts. I have a friend who speaks Greek, and when she's in Greece, because she doesn't look Greek, people often, they certainly used to, they didn't even notice that she was speaking Greek to them, and they would just speak to her in English. So anyway, the point is, native speaker credibility means that, so I, as a native speaker of English with a recognizably English accent, can play with language without other English speakers assuming that I've made a mistake. They will assume that I've done something deliberately, that I'm making an effect.
Yes.
So if I say something that sounds childish, it's because I want to sound childish, not because I don't know the grammatical form, for example. Whereas if I had a French accent or an accent that doesn't sound English, that I would be more likely to be corrected.
Apparently, there is a program that changes the accent. I don't think I've encountered it in England, but she writes about it in America, where so if your telesales company or your customer service company is like, say, in India,
yeah,
they run the conversation through a program that neutralizes the accent, so people don't go, oh, it's someone foreign who does.
Yes, because there's all sorts of stuff that comes with that. You assume competence or incompetence based on the accent that you hear as well.
Yeah.
I say you, but
yes,
it's the thing that people do. That
I do it.
Most of us do, I think.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it goes. I don't know. I'm not knowledgeable enough, but I think it also extends to, for a long time, Scots was not considered to be a proper language because I think of the same thing. It doesn't sound. The people who speak Scots speak with a different accent, and there were associations with that accent, and so the assumption was that it was a degenerate form of English rather than a language in its own right that is as old or older, I don't know, than English. And that's another form. I mean, it's also because of the status of English as an imperial language and so on. But that must happen sort of inside societies as well as between different language families or whatever, different countries that speak in different languages. But sorry, we've gone quite a long way away from the book.
Oh, no, I mean, there's so much. So it's a series of essays. I think there's 7 essays, and they are, but I wanted to just like share some like key things which I found really helpful and like,
yes,
like not just conceptually, but like action wise. She talks about contempt, and I don't know whether she was intending to, but I've taken it to mean this, like instead of feeling contempt for each other or people who are different to us, there are lots of other strong feelings we could feel. So I'll just read out the quote.
Okay.
And then I'll explain what I think it means. I'm so aware of the clock ticking, but hang on. Okay, so in a democratic society, contempt will often be replaced by empathic shame, in which the critic hangs his head in shame at what the other has done.
Yes.
Or by distress, in which the critic expresses his suffering at what the other has done. Or by anger, in which the critic seeks redress for the wrongs committed by the other. So instead of feeling, that all sounds quite so academic. So instead of feeling contempt for like, oh, I can't believe someone did that, you could go like, I feel shame, empathic shame, because I'm part of the system. This is it's so bad that it's happened. I am angry and I want to like make this better, or I am upset that they're suffering. So I'm like, oh yes, of course, because I guess in daily life, it's so easy to go like, I can't believe how stupid that person's being, and to leave it there. Whereas these other feelings are strong feelings, but they could lead to positive actions.
Right. Okay. Because
Right?
contempt. Yeah. Okay. Because contempt tends to squash empathy and.
Yeah, it creates difference and
Right.
like distance. Not all her writing is like personal stuff, and she talks about how she doesn't want to talk about her mom because she's like, if she starts talking about her mother in her book, it's just going to take over the entire book and like eat the book up. She's like, no, that's a different book.
Okay, the mother will become the octopus.
She talks about how she ends up writing. She talks about her relationship to comedy. She talks about her proximity to like African American identity politics and
Yes.
Latino and like all the different other Asians in America, like the Filipinx, and like how she's Korean and everyone assumes Asian means Chinese and how that's so awful. Oh, one thing that she says, we must enact new and better pleasures, other ways of being in the world. Queerness is a longing that propels us onward beyond romances of the negative and toiling in the present. I'm choosing all these dry phrases, but I like the idea of like queering, like finding pleasure and finding ways of like queering things is revolutionary.
Yeah. Do you think, you'd have to unpack that sentence for me a bit. Does she think that queering a space or finding pleasure is automatically a queer action?
No, she's saying we need to find new ways.
Right, okay.
Hang on. Do you mean, no.
I suppose I'm asking, does she posit pleasure as a radical? It doesn't, I mean, she wouldn't be, would she? Because, yeah, pleasure is broader than that. Anyway, sorry.
I suppose she's saying that there's new ways of being. So beyond language, for example, is one of her things. And she also talks about how like the different racial groups shouldn't be like stuck in their lanes, you know, like fighting against each other and stuff like that. So I imagine that if you extrapolate that there's so many ways of finding pleasure or experiencing pleasure, and it doesn't have to be the sort of like capitalistic way.
Yeah.
But she does actually refer to something that you talked about, which is like native speaker credibility. Like if you're a white person, there tends to be a privilege to your transgressions or to your experiments.
Yes, it's the same. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's a really interesting comparison to make. But yeah. I mean, it's about who has power in the situation, I suppose.
But I've overrun. Yes. We need
by 2 minutes. We also started talking about the book a little bit late.
Okay.
Super interesting. Yeah, I feel like I need to read this now. I really enjoyed the New York Times profile of the book by, and I don't know how to pronounce their name, Gia Tolentino, who's Filipina, I think.
I would say Gia, but like, I don't know. It seems like I don't know.
Yeah, but really, a really nice, thoughtful profile of the book, not just talking about the book, but also the writer's response to the book, which I thought was, really good. We'll put a link to that.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about this, these essays now. I want to.
It's so hard to sort of say why. It's like I've read some, you know, when you read something, you go like, oh my God, these are all the questions that I have and written about so beautifully and painfully. And so I would say, like, in a way, if you want to understand me a little bit better, read the book, because it's just like, oh my God. Which is terrifying, because in a way I'm like, oh, maybe I don't need to.
Yourself up.
but I feel less lonely. I feel less mad.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's beautiful. It's beautiful. But it's beautiful. I highly, highly recommend the book.
Excellent. Oh, so nice.
And
okay.
it's not sentimental. It's really complex. And I guess I like her politics in terms of the other thing I made a note of, she says, I want to destroy the universal, because that flattens out people's stories.
Okay.
Right? We want to sort of be together in our pluralism. Oh, sounds so serious.
Yeah, but that's a really, I mean, yeah, there's something about writing about an Asian American experience and then taking that to a more granular place where you say, but I am Korean American, which I find, I mean, it's challenging and interesting. How do you hold the plural and still, without tumbling into hierarchies in any way? Because I feel like it's so easy. That's one of the problems with the kind of universal view, is that there are hierarchies which we're not acknowledging, I think.
Yes, but, exactly.
Yeah, how to hold everything and make sense of it and not then tumble into the same hierarchies, I think is a really interesting challenge. Not just interesting, but crucial.
I think that for me, that always leads to whether or not, how do we talk about internationalism?
Right.
But anyway, right, let's answer some questions and see if we can sneak in more of the things we want to talk about into our answers. If you had a Q&A with the author, what else would you ask her? Caroline.
Such a good question.
Such a big question. You see, I wouldn't ask her. I would ask her if I could like live with her for a bit.
How would you put that?
I would say, I know this is a bit left field, but could I live with you for a bit, or could I shadow you and be your unpaid assistant for a bit? Because I just want to be in your space and experience that.
Okay.
Because I don't necessarily want to ask her questions about her book.
Right. Yeah, because the second part of that question is anything unexplored. Do you think there's anything that is unexplored because it's 5 essays, isn't it?
7. It's hard to tell because I was reading it on the Kindle and like you can't quite see.
Okay.
But I think it's 7. What's unexplored of her mother?
Yeah.
But she talks about Cathy Hong talks about someone else whose first questions upon meeting another Asian is, who is responsible for your mother's suffering?
Oh.
And wow. What shape is your body? Okay. And they're really like, oh wow. Straight in the deep end with those questions. And I was thinking, who is responsible for my mother's suffering? That's a really, I mean, you could ask anyone that question and it's quite a good question.
It's a very good question. Wow, it's an amazing question.
And I would feel uncomfortable about asking any writer to say, this is unexplored, tell me more about this. I suppose so. It's kind of cheating of like, I just want to be with her to give her something and also take something in that way as opposed to invade.
Like her to mentor you?
No, not even that. Just literally like, you know, I could carry her bag and she, just a fly on the wall kind of thing. Yes. And maybe the occasional coffee, because I don't want to extract things out of a maker that they might not be ready to share. But if I was around, things would come to light anyway, and she might, I don't know. And then I would gauge whether she liked me or not. Like, I mean, obviously, I could ask her any question and she could say, I don't want to answer that, or who are you? Bugger off. Oh, that question was from Gloria Sanders. Not Caroline.
Oh, is that what, but is the Gloria question that one or the other question?
Yeah, that was a question from Gloria.
Oh, okay. I see. I feel like we need to put you in touch with Cathy Park Hong. In some, like, I'm really caught up with trying to work out how this would work, that you would ask her to spend more time with her and possibly live with her without her being completely freaked out. Because if I were an author and somebody came up to me at a reading and said, I would just love to hang out around you, we don't even need to talk, I think I would be...
Of course, that's completely weird. Completely.
I think there's a way you could feasibly do it.
No, I mean, I've asked Bernadette Russell if I could just like
just
see her little shadow.
On the floor.
She's never replied. She's my friend. I asked her this a few years ago. I mean, it's a fact, you know. But that, I suppose I'm translating that question into saying, what do I want from Cathy Park Hong? I want to spend time with them.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It's what people do with, it's what people do with their gurus, isn't it? They just want to sit at their feet and imbibe the energy and maybe some wisdom, but mostly the energy.
Wisdom. But I think it's not so much a guru situation. It's just sort of like an investigation into how, because I feel we're so similar. I just want to experience some of her life, I guess. Like I'm doing a project with an artist in Sydney, and I was like, maybe you could go to my family in Malaysia and I could go to your family in Sydney, and we could just like be.
Wow.
For a bit.
Yeah. That's a really, I like that idea a lot.
Yeah, I love that idea.
That's so nice. Sounds super awkward.
Yeah, for sure. I'd be like, Mom, you need to treat her like your daughter. Of course that wouldn't happen.
No.
People wouldn't know. But it would be interesting to see. It'd be interesting, like, if Nick would be sleeping in my childhood bed in my bedroom and stuff like that.
Yeah, again, like my mind immediately goes to practically how would you behave with the person? How could you do it? So like, or how long would it take before you stopped being self-conscious as the parent in that situation? Because I think it'd be quite fun to be you or Nick. Is that his name?
Her name.
Her name, sorry. It'd be quite fun to be you or Nick in that situation, pretending to be the child. But yeah, the parent's job, I think, sounds quite a lot more difficult.
Yeah. Sorry, questions. Vera, can you say a time when your transgressions have been unfairly attacked or treated in the dominant culture? Is there a way you have learned to respond with skill to such situations? Not with skill. I actually sent off some poems to a friend of ours who's a publisher a few years ago, and he was like, there's quite a few typos, which is exactly native speaker credibility. I was like, no, this is experimental writing, man.
That is exactly what we're talking about. Yes, because you play a lot with punctuation and spacing and like all kinds of things which have to do with the shapes of the words as well. Which, yeah, again, if it were me, probably
they'd be like, ooh.
Ooh, interesting.
Ooh. My father, who was an English teacher, he's still alive, but he used to be a teacher. He was like, if you want, if you want people to read your writing, you should maybe try and make it more understandable. And I think that's quite why I like Cathy Park Hong, because she's like, no, don't need to explain.
Yes.
I'm like, ooh, ballsy.
Nice. So how did you respond to that?
I think I just said, oh, that was intentional.
Okay.
But it's just like email correspondence. I didn't push it because it was, at the time I had less confidence in my work, and I was like, I'm not going to push like an important publisher to see the genius in my little scribblings. What time of day is your best reading time, Adrian?
Well, right now I'm not reading really anything at all. It's so weird. I don't have the concentration. I'm reading the Cloud Appreciation Guide by Gavin Pretor-Pinney, which I've read before, and I'm rereading it. And that I tend to read in the, say, after lunch is a good time. Ooh. Especially if it's a nice day, and I'll go and sit outside and just read a few pages of that. But otherwise, evening time is probably a good time, a good reading time for me.
Do you mean directly after lunch when you're all full up and like, don't you fall sleepy?
No, it depends. I make myself a pot of tea often, and I don't feel like doing anything particularly. Like today after lunch, I went for a walk and felt quite sleepy because I think my belly was full, and I was moving. But just sitting with a pot of tea and reading, I don't feel sleepy. Oh, we've got 1 minute.
Okay. So I instead of a joke, I want to share something with you. And I think you already know this, but I want to share this with the world. And I think, oh my God, I've forgotten her name. What's the amazing African-American producer woman?
Ava DuVernay?
Probably her, yes. So on her sets, which are predominantly women, yes, that's the right word, she's trained them to sort of accept compliments. So if I go, Adrian, I love your mustache, you have to say,
thank you.
No, you have to say, I know, right?
Wow, even more. Okay.
Can I so practice? Adrian, I love your eyes.
I know, right?
Yeah, and you have to say it like in that cheesy American sitcom kind of way, like, I know, right?
I know, right? Vera, I love your smile.
I know, right?
I do genuinely love your lipstick, by the way.
Thank you so much.
I mean, I also genuinely love your smile. Sorry, that's something.
Everyone at home, practice this because it feels really like hard to do, but it's fun and it makes both people laugh and it does improve the world. I guarantee it. The cheesier, the better. And on that note, we're running 1 minute over time. I would like to thank the Omnibus for hosting us. Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you, Omnibus. Thank you, Vera.
If anyone can put me in touch with Cathy Park Hong or Chelsea Handler, please do. And if you enjoyed this show and if you want to support us and the work the Omnibus does, there is a link to donate to us and the Omnibus and support lots of other artists. Thank you so much. See you next week when it is Films and TV Week.
Oh, okay, exciting.
Oh, we're probably going to talk about Richard Pryor's roast, right?
I'll put a link in the. Oh, should we talk about that next week?
Yes.
We could. Okay, let's do that. Yeah. Okay.
Bye.